Welcome to Match Day Live. It's another go-round where we are previewing Atlanta United. Start your full day. It is a fullest of full days. You start here with the Match Day Live preview.
Where are we, John?
We're at REVERB by Hard Rock.
Thank you.
Under the shadow of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which for those watching on Twitch is directly behind us in the shadows. You can kind of see it right back there.
It's tall, but are we literally in the shadow?
Well, we could be.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Okay.
Proceed.
Yes, so we're going to be previewing Atlanta and Orlando. The purple team is here. It's another rivalry game. And It is the last game before All-Star break. And then after that, it is Leagues Cup, and it is the sprint to the end of it all. I mean, this is that last step before you get into All-Star, before you get into Leagues Cup, and then it's the month off, and then you get into the 10 matches to go. This is the business end of the schedule.
Yeah, it's an interesting flow to the year now with Leagues Cup in the middle because it gives you an opportunity to it gives you an opportunity to win your way into Champions League. That's number one. And I think this tournament's going to be a bigger deal than maybe you might think walking in the door. I think it's going to be a big deal to a lot of teams. Are there some teams who really need to use it as an opportunity to regroup? Sure, and they will. And we see this with FA Cup, with the Gummy Bear Cup in England. We see this all the time. Some teams can't go for every trophy. I think you're going to see that with Leagues Cup. I think you're going to see that from the Liga MX teams as well. There's going to be some who use this as an opportunity to maybe experiment a little bit, give young players an opportunity to play and get that experience. But I think from a lot of clubs' perspectives, you're going to see clubs go for this because it is an entry point into the Champions League or Champions Cup for next year in CONCACAF. It's a big deal, and the games are going to get heated once you get into the knockouts. But from an MLS perspective, it's also an opportunity to get ready for the playoffs. It's an opportunity to replicate knockout soccer once you get past the group stage. And with only 2 group games, they're going to be like little finals anyway. So I love what Leagues Cup is going to bring, and I think it's a big opportunity for MLS teams who take it seriously. Not all will. I think Atlanta will. I think when you're in a group with Messi FC and with Cruz Azul, those games are going to be heated on both sides of it. It's going to be a fascinating ride for Atlanta United. But you're dead on. After that, 10 games. 10 games left after that, and the sprint really takes effect there. You're playing every game from here on out for positioning of some sort, either for Leagues Cup or for home playoff games or to get a higher seed. It's all about that end of the season and trying to lift the 2 trophies that are still on hand for Atlanta United.
And you're looking at a positional battle here, 6 and 7 in the East. And
1 point separating them.
And the East is nuts.
The East is so much more difficult than the West. And we'll get into the table here in a second. But I think the East, you could see a team in 7th. I feel like 7th maybe is the line.
Yeah.
That might change a little bit once we get into the sprint. But you could see the 7th place team win it all.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised at any of the teams in the East in the top 7. And look, with the window open, maybe one of the teams beyond that is able to make a jump. We'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be a very intense match tonight that will start pretty much the ride of every match being intense the rest of the way. Let's get a couple updates on these 2 teams before we get ready to look at the whole weekend when it comes to MLS. And we have a interloper in now. Yeah, turn your mic up there, Nick.
The interloper.
How was the ride?
Slow. The ride was very slow.
Yeah, you left at like 9 a.m.?
Yeah, something like that. But you have the issue at Dorville, right? So the train sits there for about an hour and a half before they finally decide, okay, we're going to move on.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, and then we had some stops along the way, but the MATCHDAY team was very effective and helpful as normal, but some stops.
You're here. It's all that matters.
And that's what matters.
But then I nerded out because there's a giant Sikorsky that was doing like a heavy lift helicopter operation.
We saw the helicopter doing the lift. What were they lifting?
I couldn't tell. They had already deposited the load at the top.
I mean, it looked like, from our end, it looked like they were taking the casing from one of those rooftop air conditioning units.
Ooh, yeah.
And the thing was just literally, it was doing the thing was spinning 360s at the bottom of the cable run.
Oh, yeah.
And we're sitting there going, just don't drop it.
No. See, that's the thing. Anytime I see that, I instantly become a 5-year-old again. I'm stopping whatever I'm doing.
You and Scott Flood. I mean, he was obsessed.
Yeah. I'm not going anywhere when that happens. So apologies for the delay.
No, it's all good. We're going to get the headlines out of the way with Atlanta, Orlando. Then we'll bounce around MLS with your schedule in the next segment. Then we'll get into the tactics a little bit with Atlanta and Orlando in segment 3, and then some questions, and we'll wrap everything up and get out of here in the 4th. So these two teams coming in, Orlando did not have to play in the midweek. Good job, MLS schedule makers.
Yes.
Very good job. Way to make things equitable. Way to try to, have teams on the same level of rest coming into
No,
games.
we can't have that. No.
It's
No,
crazy.
don't
You
do that.
could have
No.
had Orlando play midweek, or you could have had Atlanta play New England later. But anyway, I
No,
digress.
no.
Atlanta's got to bounce back after 2 games on the road, 2 of the longest trips in the Eastern Conference with
Yes.
Montreal and New England. I can tell you from experience, we got home from New England. I got home. I don't know where everybody else lives on the team. I got home about 3 a.m.
That's what I
on
figured.
Wednesday night, Thursday morning. The team got probably a light regen session in Thursday afternoon, and then a pretty light session yesterday, and then you play. You don't have time to work on tactics all week. You don't have time to really do much other than recover. Orlando, on the other hand, they had to recover after a 4-0 loss last Saturday at RSL, where that was only their second loss in 2 months. But it was a bad loss.
Oh yeah.
How much does that linger with you in your mind, Nick?
I think it lingers a lot. It's great to have a streak, but at some point the streak becomes a weight of its own. And then whenever you get walloped like a 4-0 loss, what happens is you start to question a lot of things, right? The manager may say, we're just going to burn the game tape. We're not even going to watch it. And that doesn't necessarily remove the stain.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a little more of a tense matchup than maybe Orlando would like it to be.
Yeah, they're going to be fresher. I mean, there's just no way around it. They're going to be fresher over 90.
Right.
The thing about Atlanta United and this group, they're young. They do have that energy. You have just physical limits, though,
Yeah.
and how much energy you have.
Yes.
Can they start well? Yes. Can they get through the first half? No problems. I think yes. If you start the same group, and I don't know what the lineup's going to be yet. If you start the same group, I think you can get through 45. No worries. You don't have to change anything. You're going to have to make subs, though. And that's just – and you might have to at 45. We saw Santiago Sosa come off at 45, and I think there was a narrative that it was performance-related. It was not. He was only going to be able to go 45 to begin with.
Right.
He got beat on the 1v1 with Carlos Heel.
Yes.
He's not the only one in this league that's been beat in a 1v1 with Carlos Heel. It ends up being the second goal, which ends up deciding it. But, again, Sosa is going to play the 6 right now. And I think in this kind of shape that Atlanta's in, where they've won 2 of 3 with 3 center backs with 3-4-2-1, 3-2-4-1, 3-6-1, whatever we want to call the thing. It's 3 center backs. It's Sosa and a partner in a pivot. It's Almada and a partner as a box midfield.
Right.
And it's a 9. It's your wing backs that can be wingers. It's your second 10 that can be an 8, that can be a 10, that can be a 9, that can be a winger. It's fascinating in how it works, and I think we've seen it look good in 2 out of these 3 games. And honestly, the New England game, outside of 10 minutes, when you shifted to 4-3-3, I think you were able to take some of those benefits that you've gained from playing in this manner and push them forward because, honestly, in the 4-3-3, Hernandez wasn't going a ton as the right back. He was kind of staying home like he does in the 3 center back setup. So I think this idea that they're playing dramatically different, maybe not true, but you've given yourself a little more flexibility in the way you play right now, and they might need that tonight.
It allows you to make radical changes in the game with 1 or 2 subs where you can say, okay, we're seeing that we're being beat in this particular area. We make 1 sub, and now we know to shift in this particular way, which negates that part of their attack, which allows us then to explode in transitional moments. That's one of the things that I think we kind of get lost in when we talk about formations and tactics and things of that sort, that we say, well, we need to run this formation, and this formation will execute this. That's not necessarily true. roles and responsibilities play a part in this as well. And so when you come off the bench and you're fresh, you have a different set of instructions. Hey, we're going to drift a little more to the right or a little more to the left, maybe stay home, maybe push forward. These are the things that we have to watch during the game that can really be the momentum shifts that one sub in the, the 53rd minute or whatnot. And this is one thing I love that what Gonzalo does, is that with a sub or two, he can radically change the way they're playing just by a role and responsibility shift.
Yeah, and it's almost like changing the personality, too, of the group, which, you change an ingredient in a recipe, a minor change, it has a very different flavor to it.
Oh, yes.
It's the same way with this. If you change Tyler Wolf and Machop Chol in that second 10 role, they interpret it differently,
Yes.
and they give you different things in that. So we'll see what the lineup looks like tonight. A couple of nuggets before we take a quick break. Orlando, in the 4 goals they conceded at RSL, 2 of them were headers. They had not given up headed goals but 1 all year long. They gave up 2 in that game. When you look at Atlanta on set pieces, now they haven't scored on a set piece like that in a little while, but they have this season. Feels like it could be a big opportunity if you can get, whether it's Miguel Berry, whether it's maybe a late cameo from Yorgos Yakimakis, whether it's Juano Porrata. I think Luis Abram, we haven't seen him in that spot either, but he can get forward in those. Santiago Sosa, very good in the air as well. You've got some big advantages in the air against Orlando, in my opinion.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays itself out, because we've seen the improvement, Nick, with set pieces where Atlanta United's concerned, and a team that has been susceptible to giving up goals and opportunities with set pieces. This leads itself right into that.
Yeah, and whenever you have players who are dynamic in the air like that, it's an instant boost to your team, where you're hunting for that goal instead of having to throw resources, all forward and, radically exposing yourself in the back. Instead, on a set piece, you have people who can get up and be a difference maker in a split second and level a game or break a game open for you. And to me, whenever you talk about the issues that were happening before on set pieces, those have largely been cleaned up, right? And so, in my opinion,
Yeah, really since last season, the
Right.
defending of set
Yeah.
pieces, yeah.
and so it's progress, and it's we're not looking to take a canoe and turn it into a cruise ship. We're talking we're talking
That would be interesting.
that'd be very interesting, but we're talking about a nice improvement that I think has to be noted, and the players that have been brought in that allow you those opportunities, those split second moments on set pieces, on dead balls, where as great as Almada has been, that will knock off the post that was immediately cleaned up by Brooks. And by having players in here who have that immediacy, that explosive thought process that says now, and they put the ball in the back of the net, to me, that's a fundamental difference maker. It could be a fundamental difference maker for Atlanta today against Orlando.
Couple more bits of trivia before we take a break and then bounce around MLS. Atlanta United's only lost 1 game at home this year out of 11. 7 wins, 3 draws. They haven't lost in their last 5 at home. 3 wins, 2 draws. They've scored twice in 8 of the 11. The second goal at home is the magic number. Usually 3 is the magic number. It's 2 at home for Atlanta because they've only lost 1 time all time when they've scored 2 goals at home. Only 1 loss. Do either one of you know which game it was? Quick answer.
Wow. I have no quick answer.
No quick answer.
2017
Well, that's why.
Minnesota. The last game of that
man.
homestand at the Benz when it opened.
Jeez.
3-2 loss at home to Minnesota. 2 goals really, really late.
Wait, was that the
painful.
Kyle Rainish match?
Kyle
Was that the
Rainish started
Tambakis?
and got thrown out with a tackle, and then Tambakis
Right.
came in. You came back with 10 and took a 2-1 lead, and then gave up 2 goals late and lost 3-2. When you were playing weekend Wednesday
Yep.
for who knows how long
I don't
during
like
that run of
losing- I
games.
don't like losing to a bunch of guys who are eating cheese curds midweek.
Yeah,
Doesn't feel right to me.
It's not, and that was a Tuesday too. It was a really weird night all the way around.
Wow.
Only loss you've ever had at home with 2 goals scored. Also, Orlando. Atlanta started 6-match winning streak over Orlando in all competitions. Once you got past that first year where you had a couple of draws back to back here in Atlanta, all competitions, 6-game winning streak, 2018, 2019. Since only 2 wins for Atlanta, only 3 losses, 5 draws between them since. It's been a rivalry that I remember back in that 18-19 time frame. People were trying to say it's not a rivalry. Now it absolutely is. You ask anybody involved in it.
Yeah.
These teams don't like each other.
No.
They play similar shades of the same ideas. Pareja and Pineda, I think, have a lot in common, although they have some pretty clear differences as well. Should be a really interesting matchup because styles make fights, and these two should be a good one.
Yes, that's the key thing here. If you have two, it's one thing if you have, we talk about styles make fights. It's one thing if you have a team that sits back and they just absorb, or one team that just goes all in. But when you have two teams that play in a very similar fashion, it's 50-50 no matter what. And you could have, it's like Auburn and LSU, right? Doesn't matter who's on the field. It's going to be a tight game. It's the same thing here. Whether it was Kaká, whether it was Nani, it didn't matter. Whether it was, Joseph Martinez or, whether it's Giacomakis, it doesn't matter. What matters is when you have two teams that are emotionally involved in a game like this, anything can happen. And I think that's the important thing to remember today.
All right, quick break. We're going to come back, and we'll get you set for the MLS weekend. Atlanta doesn't start until 7:55 tonight with kickoff.
Super Hyper Mega pregame show.
Yeah. I don't think that's an official name, but yes. FS1 is the reason for the delay, unfortunately. So some other games will kick off before that. Then there's games all night before we get into Leagues Cup. We're going to have a lot of Leagues Cup talk next week all over the SDH platforms, all over 92.9 The Game as well. We'll be right back after this from Reverb Match Day Live, Atlanta and Orlando.
Welcome back to Match Day Live here at SDH, Reverb by Hard Rock, the location, getting you ready for Atlanta United and Orlando. That's at 7:55 tonight. FS1, Apple TV on the free side. We got a lot of other games to get into. This is where we'll get into the rest of the schedule, and this is where the fun starts because we get to talk about how completely and totally crammed and jammed things are as we head into Leagues Cup. Eastern Conference, Cincinnati, 8 points clear of everybody. They're at 48 points. New England's at 40. Then the fun. 5 teams separated by 4 points in the Eastern Conference. Jason, we talked about that in the Open. Nashville at 38, Philadelphia at 37, Crew at 36, Atlanta 35, Orlando 34. There'll be a test on this later. 8-9 right now, DC at 30, Chicago's at 29. That's your playoff bar.
It feels like 7 is the drop for teams that can win the East. 8-9, there's a battle for that with the teams below. But I feel like that's a clear separation point in terms of quality.
Yeah, and really that's where the pressure really starts to begin, right? Because it's kind of a no man's land. You know, if you slip up here, if you have an off night midweek, suddenly you're on the outside looking in.
Yeah. What's the rest of the East?
Chaos, at least with the next 4. 10, 11, 12, and 13, all at 26 points. Montreal has 8 wins. Red Bulls have 6 wins. Charlotte has 6 wins. Identical 6, 8, and 8 records. Goal difference is the difference right there, -2 to -8. Keep an eye on that. NYC is at 26 points, 5 wins. And then you've got Toronto and Inter Messi at 19 and 18.
Okay, so last playoff spot, what's the number right now points-wise?
29.
29. The group that's all level is on what?
26.
So 3 points out. So that's that immediate shift. Toronto's Toronto. I don't think they're going to make a run.
Nope.
Miami's going to be better, we know, with their additions. How much better, we don't know, but they'll be better. I don't want to discount them just yet. They've got to pick up some points, well, tonight, but it's not going to be easy. We'll get into that in a second. They're going to get guys back from the Gold Cup. They're obviously making signings. They're going to be better. I think out of those two that can be interesting to watch, Miami. Toronto might just be packing it in and trying to get out of the season.
Because didn't we see that Bernardeschi apparently he's like, I'm done.
There's lots of apparentlys when we talk about MLS these days.
Yes.
So let's be careful about that. I don't know how clear that is, but Bernardeschi and Senye probably not long for Toronto. No. I think that's safe.
And I can jump in on this, and it's something that you see with players who leave some of these quote-unquote top leagues early.
Top leagues.
And we saw this with David Beckham as well. When Beckham first came to the Galaxy, he felt that he still had more to give at a top level, went on loan with Milan, and we saw what happened with that after. But I think what they were promised in Toronto, these Italian players who came over, and what was delivered were radically different. And as a result, you know, there's nothing like home for an Italian. The food, the culture, the everything. You when you leave it, you want to get back immediately. I'm not shocked by any of this. Like, none of this is shocking to me. Even if they were being paid a small fortune, the fact that Bernardeschi may or may not want to go home, I guarantee you there's a couple of Serie A teams that have reached out to him and said, hey, if you're interested, you are welcome. You are more than welcome back. So, not shocked at all.
The issue is the salary, because he's getting paid very, very well, and there's probably very few teams that'll want to pay that same amount.
Right.
So how that gets sorted, we'll see. I'm not expecting Toronto to be a factor in the East outside of being the spoiler. I don't want to say Miami's not going to be a factor just yet.
Well, no, but Miami's like a rocket-assisted Ford Escort at the moment. You know,
maybe, maybe if they can figure out where the gas pedal is, and I don't know. I mean, you can add a bunch of pieces, but how quick do they build any chemistry? We're just going to have to watch this crazy experiment as we go. What's the Western Conference table quickly?
All Caps, otherwise known as St. Louis City SC, they're at 38 points, and everyone's closing in on them. LAFC's at 36. Seattle's at 35. Steph Fry is still in concussion protocol, so Steph Cleveland's getting reps in net. RSL's at 34. Welcome back, Chicho Arango. San Jose's at 32. Austin and Dallas both at 29. Both have 8 wins. You've got to get into math and goal difference there, because the goal difference is both at -1. Houston's at 28 under Ben Olsen year 1. Vancouver's at 28. That's the playoff bar right now.
Okay.
But Minnesota is having their temporary Pookie party. They're at 27.
Their what?
Their temporary Pookie party.
It's temporary?
Well, I mean, he scored last time out. He didn't score first time.
You have no faith in Timo Pukki, do you?
No, I do not.
Jeez. Okay. That was mean, John.
So 27 with Minnesota, Sporting's at 26, and then you've got Portland at 23, LAG's at 22, and Colorado and the Rabid Prairie Dogs are last with 18.
Yeah. The West is not very good.
No.
And when you get a little bit further down the table, not as good as the East. The East, by far, better conference this season. But you get into a one-game final, anything can happen,
Right.
and we're going to find out. Let's run through the schedule real quick. I'm going to set up with a couple of talking points on each game. These guys will give you a little more info. Philadelphia NYC is one of the 7:30 kickoffs. The Union have won 4 straight against NYC. They were very bad against NYC early on. Philadelphia is not the greatest at the moment. NYC is not really a whole lot better.
No.
What are you expecting out of this, John?
I'm not overthinking this one. I'm going Philly. They're also getting Andre Blake back and everybody back from international duty.
Yeah.
I'm not overthinking it.
Yeah, Blake's the game changer here, right? I mean,
would agree.
no matter what you do to get past Philly's midfield, no matter what you do to break them down, you still have to deal with the man at the net, and he's unbelievable.
New England and D.C. New England unbeaten in 12 straight at home, including Wednesday night. They're also really good against D.C. as well. 12 straight home league games unbeaten against D.C. 7 wins, 5 draws. Overall, in their last 12 against everybody, 9 wins, 3 draws. That's the second longest streak in New England Revolution club history. You got to go back to 2005 to match this kind of home form. Is there anything to be complicated with this one, New England and D.C.?
No, it's the Flying Arena Brothers by like 2, I'll say.
I think New England getting Mark Anthony Kaye is a really good move as well. I think he makes them even better. New England is a potential MLS Cup winning team to me.
Yeah, especially when you got Petrovic in net. You get to see that firsthand up in Foxborough.
Monster.
I'm not overthinking this one either. I've got New England.
Montreal hosting Charlotte. Montreal's a really different team at home versus on the road. They played a scoreless draw last time out. Montreal had won both games with these two teams in 2022. Charlotte has never gotten a win in Canada. Do they tonight?
No.
No.
Do they get a point tonight?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, they're unbeaten in 5, John. Why are you discounting the crown?
I'm giving more credit to Stade Saputo and the aura that is attached there, and difficulty winning A on the road and B winning on the road in Canada.
Montreal's lost back-to-back at home.
I think the streak ends tonight.
Okay.
We'll see. 5 games unbeaten for Charlotte.
No.
5 straight draws. No, they literally have. You can't say no to that.
No.
That's a fact. They've 5 straight unbeaten.
It's like a conversation with my daughter.
No. 5 of them are draws. So Charlotte is the second team to draw 5 straight games this season. NYC did it. The last team to go 6 straight draws, and I think it's going to be a draw too, so I'm with Nick. Chicago in 2014. Very hard to do 6 straight draws. We'll see if Charlotte can pull it off.
Absolutely.
Cincinnati hosting Nashville. Cincinnati got its first win over Nashville on March 25th. It was 1-0 at Geodis Park. Nashville was unbeaten in their first 4 against Cincinnati. Nashville needs reinforcements. Looks like they're going to get one from Nottingham Forest. That's pretty much my reaction to it. Cincinnati, with guys away at the Gold Cup, hasn't been as good, but they've been able to keep that 8-point lead at the top of the East and for the Supporters' Shield. Cincinnati at home, do they get back on the winning side of things, John?
Yes. I think they do.
Easy.
And Sam Surridge, for me, is not a solution for
He's
Nashville.
not going to be a solution yet for anybody because he hasn't been announced yet.
No.
But anyway.
Possibly, allegedly, probably, maybe from Forest.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's good. But he's not there. He doesn't factor into today. So just no chance for Nashville. They're just not good enough.
No, I think if you keep Hani Mukhtar in check, Nick, I think then that's pretty much checkmate.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Fighting Kroger guys for the win tonight. Can we give Cincinnati?
I'm glad you went Kroger and not Skyline Chili. Thank you.
The Fighting Hootie,
yeah,
Hootie delights.
Yeah, look.
The what?
Cincinnati was a clown show.
Oh.
Everyone mocked them. Everyone sat there and laughed. Ha ha ha! They're so terrible. They have no idea what they're doing.
They
building
deserve
a club.
to be laughed at, though.
Okay, but look what they've
Yup,
built themselves
Yeah,
into.
they
now,
have.
Right? I mean, to me, that's the great part about this league. What makes this league so great, and no other place in the world does this happen, where you have a team that is like Cincinnati, that's a clown show, that suddenly becomes number one in the East, right? That comes
You
like
bring in
number one
Noonan
in
and
their side.
2
2
Right,
years.
yeah.
I mean,
amazing.
last year was good for them. They've progressed even further. It's a credit to what you can do in this league. You can go from bottom to top quickly, and look, Miami's going to try to do it as well. We'll see if they can pull it off. They're going a different route. Cincinnati did it with an identity. Miami's doing it with star power. We'll see. See how that
Pocketbook.
goes. St. Louis and Miami, speaking of the Herons, Inter Miami, they've only won one time against expansion teams, a draw and 3 losses. They beat Charlotte last July in Charlotte's first year. Miami's lost all 3 away games against MLS newcomers since they came in. Does that change tonight in St. Louis?
No.
I'm going to say yes.
Wow.
You think Miami wins?
Yeah.
Wow,
I
okay.
think that there are a lot of players on Miami who are looking at their roster spot and looking at some
Yeah.
of these names coming in and realizing if I don't start producing at a pretty decent level, I may be looking for a new house. So I think this is going to be one of those games where there's a little jump punch like Little Mac and Punch Out, and they kind of shock. They shock St. Louis to get the win.
It can be a trap game for St. Louis as well. You can easily overlook Miami. Now, one thing about St. Louis, like I mentioned with Atlanta, getting the second goal at home is key. St. Louis has won all 7 home games where they've scored multiple goals. They've failed to win any of the 4 in which they scored 1 or obviously 0. I don't know if they've been clean sheeted at home. Second goal is key for them as well. Miami did give up 2 in D.C. They got a 2-2 draw out of it. I could see a point for Miami possibly. I don't know about a win. Minnesota and LAFC. Minnesota has never lost a home match against LAFC. As good as the black and gold have been, Minnesota has never been beaten in the land of Prince and the Revolution. Does that happen now?
No.
Miami or Minnesota gets something out of it.
I think Minnesota gets something out
I
of
think
it.
they do. I think
Yeah.
they do too.
LA's won 2 of their last 10 away in all competitions going back to mid-April. 2 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. They'd only suffered 1 defeat in their previous 12 away. The wheels have fallen off a little bit for LAFC. Is it just fatigue? Is it just missing some pieces? Is it making some changes? Is it just one of those things?
I
Choice
think-
D, all the above.
No, I think it's fatigue. I think it's fatigue. You have a lot of guys who are explosive players, but at this point in the season, you got some tired legs. The explosive moments come a little bit fewer, a little bit farther between. And is there a manager in the league who knows how to turn virtually any game into a rock fight? Quite like that man up in Minnesota.
Adrian Heath does like a rock fight.
And so they have a guy up there now who can take these rock fights and get the one little chip goal in, and Mr. Pookie. So
John said it's temporary that he's doing anything, though.
I disagree.
I think he'll be okay. I don't think he's going to light the league on fire.
No.
But can he get 10 goals a year for Minnesota? Yeah. I think he can get double digits, low double digits.
But there's some teams that's all they need.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, some teams don't.
You don't need 18, 19
When you
goal
have
guy.
Emmanuel Reynoso setting you up, you better score 10 goals.
And not to mention, you have to have players who are okay with the Minnesota falls and winters, right? And so
Yep.
that's something where you're not going to get a ton of hyper dynamic players, showstoppers who are going to venture to that. So you need those guys who can get, 9, 10, 11 goals a season. And they're going to get you the difference between that, between the draw and that 1-0 or 2-1 win.
Chicago, Toronto next on the board. Chicago back-to-back clean sheets against Toronto. It's the first time they've ever done that. They've won 4 of their last 5 regular season matches away. The Frank Klopas era is a very good one for the Chicago Fire. They have a great goalkeeper. They're getting goals right now. They should beat Toronto at home at Soldier Field, right?
This they should.
Yes.
I don't see Toronto scoring. I think Brady gets another clean sheet, and those who picked him up in fantasy, not me, will get another big night.
And
Well,
let's
why
say-
didn't you pick him up? You still could, John. Why are you saying
because
it's not locked?
No, but it is locked because if you pick up your keeper and it's a double goal, if it's a double
you already
match
played
week,
a goalkeeper in the double match week.
yeah, Celentano.
Okay.
Because he's good at getting me 8 or 9 points every match.
Maybe. I don't know.
But Brady's been hot recently. Yes.
Well, Toronto's abysmal
Yes,
right
that-
now.
that
1
too.
goal in 5. They've lost 5 in a row.
That's just not good.
But if the rumors rumors
Rumors.
are true, then Bernadeschi, if he's checked out, what are you really getting out of that?
You just brought up rumors, so I have to clean one up because Airborne DJ fell for something that quite a few people did. Hani Mukhtar is not going to the Middle East. That was a fake Tom Bogert account.
Yes.
It was a Tom Bogerl account.
Yes.
Look at where
Had
we
an
are
L
in the
instead
world.
of a T.
Look at how we've come up in the world, huh? We don't need Fabrizio Romano.
We have
knockoff
Tom
accounts.
Bogerl.
We have Tom Bogerl.
Yes.
Yes.
So, all right. So since we're on that topic, do you think he goes?
You'd have to offer him a crazy amount of salary that then he goes to the club and says, "Look, I know you don't want to sell me, but look, I could make like 4 or 5 times what you're paying me, which is very good. I mean, he's being paid well, but it could change my life and my family's life.
Uh-huh.
You gotta let me go." I don't know if it gets to that or not.
I don't think it does.
He's not a big name enough, so I don't know if they go so over the top with a salary.
Well, that and are they going to go that over the top for the transfer fee necessary for Nashville to say, "Great, we'll send you in the summer as opposed to in the winter"?
I don't think that's the trick to it, honestly. I think the trick to get him to do it would be to give him so much money that he pushes for the deal, because they're going to give a good transfer if it happens, but I don't think they're going to give him the big enough salary for him to go bang on the door and say, "Hey, you got to sell me. Let me go take this deal." That's where I'm at. We'll just have to wait and see. RSL and the Red Bulls. RSL unbeaten in 12 regular season home games against the Red Bulls. They did lose to the Red Bulls in a playoff game, and I know you're looking at that RSL and the Red Bulls. How did they play in a playoff game that wasn't MLS Cup, and it was in Utah? The Red Bulls beat RSL in the 2008 Western Conference Final when they would move teams from one conference to the other. If you were like the last team out in the East, but you were better than the last team in the West, you flipped over.
Ooh, I like that.
It happened a couple times. The Red Bulls made it to MLS Cup in 2008, beating RSL in Utah.
I like that. That is,
it's wacky.
See, you got Nick all fired up now.
Do the Red Bulls do it again? Do they win in Utah in regular season tonight?
Yes.
No.
Whoa, they do?
Chicho
I
Arango
think
gets
they
a
win.
brace.
RSL's been really good.
I
8th
don't
straight
care.
unbeaten.
I don't care. I've made my call. I've planted that flag.
How do the Red Bulls do it beyond the press?
There you go.
How else do they do anything beyond the press?
Just checking. Just checking.
No. If anyone tells you that they're going to do anything but press, they are liars.
They're
The
fibbing.
altitude, is that going to affect their press?
For a little bit.
Late in the half and late in the half.
What do I always say? Last 15 minutes of either half, that's when you can get the Bulls. If they have got to score early, I'll put it that way. They have got to score early. If they do that, they're walking out a winner. I think they can make it happen.
Oh, by the way, Hani Mukhtar makes 3.2.
Yeah, I mean, he's paid well. Like, you're going to have to like put a salary in front of him of $10 million plus a year for him to go bang on the door of his bosses at Nashville and say, "Look, you got to sell me. I need this money."
No, honey, we're not interested in selling you. It's not going to happen.
Yes, they're going to say that, but if he says,
absolutely.
you're going to be able, like, I'm going to be able to make 8 figures, if I don't beg for the transfer, I believe he's married. My wife would smack me in the head. Like, you have to go for that if they're going to give you that much salary.
Yes.
That's the key to the move. It's not about the transfer. It's not about Nashville saying, "We don't want to sell you in the summer."
It's not going to happen.
It doesn't matter. If he's going to be able to be offered that much money, and he says, "Oh, you're not going to sell me? Okay, cool." Start trudging around.
Oh,
the
yeah,
field.
absolutely.
Like, then it becomes a different
An
conversation.
unmotivated Hani Mukhtar.
That's the trick to the deal. I don't think it happens because he's not a big enough name to get $10 million plus a year. I just don't think it happens. Rest of the games in MLS quickly. Colorado hosting Houston.
Houston.
Yeah, I'll take Houston.
The Dynamo have won only one of their 11 games away this season. They've lost 8. But it was at LAFC. So, I mean,
that was the double week where LAFC lost twice and everybody started freaking out.
The only 2 teams who have fewer points on the road than the Dynamo, Miami and Toronto.
Of course.
Austin hosting Sporting Kansas City is kind of a sneaky good game.
Draw.
Draw for you, Nick?
Draw.
Sporting Kansas City's won only one of their last 18 games away. I think Austin wins it.
Okay.
Vancouver hosting the Galaxy. Last 12 times they've played, total split. Each team's won 5. They've drawn twice. Vancouver and the Galaxy, what you got?
Vancouver.
Give me Vancouver.
Galaxy are unbeaten in MLS play in 7.
I don't care.
Vancouver.
I think it's going to be a draw.
I think they have too many problems.
Vancouver, Vanni Sartini might be singing with Nickelback tonight. We'll just
Oh,
have
I'm
to
sure
wait
he
and
will.
see. Seattle hosting Dallas.
Look at this photograph.
Don't
Oh
ever
my
do that
God.
again. Seattle is pretty much owned Dallas, unbeaten in 16 straight at home. The only Dallas win in Seattle, 2011. It is the longest active streak against a single opponent at home in MLS. Portland and San Jose is also level with this. Does Dallas change it?
Seattle.
Seattle.
Yeah, I
it's
think
really
that's-
hard to play away from that corporate manufactured facade that's built around the Frisco facility and the cow pastures that are nearby.
I don't think there's actually cow pastures that close by.
There used to be. There used to be a lot of them.
I think they've cleared those up now. I think it's
Turn them into parking
all, like-
lots
well, no, parking for what?
for the Hall of Fame.
No, I think it's all like department stores and Trader Joe's now at this point. I think that's what we're looking at. Lots of stuff.
Trendy.
Portland and Columbus in the Caleb Porter Bowl. Portland unbeaten in 5 all-time at home against Columbus. Portland has not been very good as of late. 1 win in their last 10. Columbus has been unbeaten in 8, but 3 draws out of that. Can the Crew go to Portland and get something out of it?
Point.
I say yes. It sounds like there are some challenges taking place right now in Portland.
A little bit.
And so I think that in chaos there's opportunity and Columbus takes advantage.
All right, quick reset for us. We're going to come back and give you some tactical points about Atlanta and Orlando and take a couple questions. If you have them on Twitch or on Twitter or on YouTube,
Or here in the
we'll
building.
search through them there, or if you're sitting here in front of us. All of the above is valid. We'll get some of that right after this on Matchday Live from Reverb.
Welcome back to Matchday Live. Home stretch, getting you ready for Atlanta and Orlando here. SDH at Reverb by Hard Rock. Once again, thanks to everybody here. Great home for us this season for the Saturday home matches.
With the weather that could affect tailgates today,
Yes.
you might want to come hang out at Reverb before going over to the stadium because it's gotten a little bit darker since
Yes.
we got here.
Yes.
I think storms are supposed to be rolling through, so just keep that in mind right next to the stadium. Really good spot to hang out ahead of the match or after the match.
Yeah, well, one thing I love is that they have a giant door here that can roll up and down, allows you a little bit of fresh air coming through here. You got a beautiful space. You have looks like some studio areas lined up as well, couches, chairs. Why do you want to be out there holding down a tent when the storm comes through.
Yeah, when the storm comes through, you
You
got
don't
you
wanna
got to
do
head to
You come
Reverb.
walking up the hill.
No, yeah.
You come right up here.
The bar staff's exceptionally friendly, right?
Oh,
The staff
absolutely.
is amazing. So this is an easy choice.
Yeah, no brainer. This is your spot to hang out. Let's dig into the tactics a little bit of Atlanta and Orlando. We'll take some questions and get out of here. So, a couple of things for me. Orlando, Facundo Torres is the guy, in my opinion, that makes Orlando tick. They've been interchangeable up top with McGuire, with Carra, two big body number 9s. They kind of do similar things. McGuire's been in the better form as of late. But Torres is the one coming off the wing. He can cut inside, an inverted winger, can cut in on his left foot. When he's on, Orlando can be dangerous because Mauricio Pereira, he's 33. He's not what he was before. He's still a good 10. They need more from Torres. The question about Orlando that I haven't figured out yet is Martin Ojeda has been a great addition for them. He leads them in assists with 8. He's 2 behind Thiago Almada in the league lead. But he's not a regular starter for this team. He's come off the bench a little bit more than he started. I don't know if he's going to start this one. He didn't start last time out, and he hasn't been a regular in the starting lineup. I feel like you need him in there, but right now they like what they're getting from Angulo and Torres, the more inverted wingers tucking inside and really making the team narrow, which has worked. They've only lost 2 in the last 2 months, but maybe limits them a little bit and keeps a guy like Ojeda out. And we see this happen sometimes, Nick.
Yeah. Can Orlando expose the channels? That to me is going to be the difference, in my opinion.
Not really how they've been built, which I think is good for Atlanta.
Yeah, it's good for Atlanta.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, but if you see where Atlanta has had some challenges, the exposure in the channels where that long ball gets played through, I think that if Atlanta can prevent that from happening, it's their game. Top, bottom, center, it's theirs. If Orlando can expose the channels at all, especially early on, this could become, in Jarrett Smith's immortal words, the rock fight that we don't want it to turn into.
I think the 3 center backs, and I'd assume Atlanta sticks with it just because you haven't had time to really work on anything other than that this week.
Right.
Even though Orlando generally only plays 1 up top, the 3 center backs puts center backs in those channels, and I think that's helped a lot. It's made Atlanta more difficult to break down. Just from a chess match perspective, it's just positioning of your chess pieces, getting them into those spots. I don't think those channels have been as open as they were before. The other thing about Orlando that's really interesting to me is Kyle Smith. And when you dig into Orlando, he's not going to be your first, second, or third name that grabs your attention. But we see this happen more often now in the modern game where a fullback is not necessarily always a fullback.
Right.
Sometimes they're in a double pivot. Sometimes they become a central midfielder. Sometimes they become a winger. Sometimes they become a center back. All of those things are possible. And Kyle Smith, with his soccer IQ, he can create overloads in different parts of the field. We've seen Atlanta do that in the past with Andrew Gutman in some ways, in certain spots.
Yep.
Smith tucking into the midfield is the interesting element because, to me, Cartagena and Araujo are both really good. It's a good pair. But with Smith being able to tuck in, it gives them the opportunity to kind of interchange who gets further up the field. And Araujo is the more dangerous, but he doesn't always go. Sometimes it's Cartagena. Atlanta's got to deal with that. Now, if they're in the box midfield, you've got the bodies to deal with it, but you've got to pick up those subtle shifts when Smith isn't a fullback and when he's a midfielder or when he's a winger higher up the field.
So then let me ask you this. When it comes to Atlanta going up against Orlando, is there a matchup or a section of the field where you think Atlanta United, with the lineup that you think would happen, all things being equal, could take the most advantage of Orlando in the setups that you've seen?
There's 2. I think one is the wing backs against their fullbacks because Rafael Santos, the left back, he likes to get forward. When he gets forward, Orlando's better. That creates an opportunity for Brooks Lennon. Brooks Lennon might pin him in against RSL. He didn't get forward very much, and they were not nearly as dangerous. And Smith, I mean, yes, he's flexible. He can get into different spots. But when he's out wide as a winger, Caleb Wiley can blow past him. And you've got to look for those opportunities. The other one for me is when Araujo or Cartagena go, Almada getting into those spots behind the holding midfield for Orlando and getting between the lines there. Almada's in a very free role in the 3-4-2-1. He can float wide, he can drop back, he can stay in that little spot in between the forward and the center backs for Orlando and their holding midfield. And that's where he's got to get, one, to find space, two, to make Cartagena and Araujo say, I can't get forward, I got to stay back. And that limits Orlando getting forward even more.
Yeah, the wing usage of the wings, I think, brings up a good point, and that is as the wings push forward, there's space left behind. And in transitional moments, Atlanta United is going to need to be able to pick up those spaces quickly. If there's a turnover, they need to be able to react very quickly and shut down that immediacy of the Orlando's attack, which they can do. They have the talent to do. And the wing play is going to be absolutely critical tonight for sure for Atlanta from a goal scoring perspective, because the more that you can utilize the wings, draw those defenders apart, make sure that the center backs now have to get in decision-making roles. Okay, do I step to the man? Do I attack the space? How am I going to defend this? The more questions you put into a defender's mind, the more likely you are to have somebody like Almada be able to expose you from distance. If Atlanta can do that, it's going to be a very fun night.
Yeah, Robin Johnson and Antonio Carlos, not the fleetest of foot in the back, both over 30. I think you want to take advantage of that. John, we've got questions on Twitch. Let's start with Eric's question here. Eric came up asking about the double pivot. When we get into the idea of tactics and midfields especially, he wanted to get into what double pivot, single pivot. He asked if there's a triple pivot. There is. Jose Mourinho was all about the triple pivot. Very defensive. It's basically how many holding midfielders you have, to simplify it. So when you talk about Atlanta right now in a 3-4-2-1, and depending on where they are in the field, if they have the ball or if they don't have the ball, you could call it a line of five. You could say it's a 5-2-2-1. At times in Montreal, it looked like a 5-3-1-1, sometimes a 5-4-1. That's why formations are overrated, because that's all in the same match in Montreal.
Yep.
It was a 3-4-2-1. It was a 5-2-2-1. It was a 5-3-1-1 in the second half. It was a 5-4-1 at times late in the game. Does it look sometimes like there's two up top? Yeah, sure. You can say it's a 5-3-2 if you want to go there. That's why formations are overrated. But the pivot part of it is important, because to me, the elements you need to know in the way a team plays, I don't need the number combination. I don't have a padlock. I need to know where people play. How many center backs do they play with? How many nines? How many forwards do they play with? And how many how's the midfield structured? Is it one central defensive midfielder behind two? Because typically teams are going to play three central midfielders now. So is it one behind two? That would be a single pivot. Is it two behind one? So that'd be at number 10 in front of a double pivot. Is it what Jose Mourinho did at times with Real Madrid when Barcelona was making him eat his lunch over and over again? He went to the triple pivot. He played three defensive midfielders. And it worked to a degree because it clogs down space. To a degree, it's what Atlanta did against Montreal late in that game, where Tyler Wolff dropped deep, and it was Sosa in the middle with Sejdic and Wolff on either side of him. Kind of a triple pivot. It's not so much like pivot in what the player does. It's pivot in the way the team plays.
Right.
So it's what everything revolves around, and that's why – one, we love our holding midfielders at Soccer Down here.
HMAS,
absolutely.
But it's two, it really defines the way a team plays. How your holding midfielder plays defines the way the whole team plays.
And it allows, again, we talk about the decision-making process as a defender. If I have a double pivot in front of me, it makes me more confident in my decision-making. That if I go and I say, okay, I'm going to step to this particular player, I know that there's coverage available for me. As opposed, if there's a single pivot, now that makes my decision-making a little more contingent upon a couple of factors. How is my center back partner going to play, or center back partners? How are they in space? The fewer options I have for coverage, the more pensive I'm going to be. And so with that extra coverage in front of me, it makes me a little more daring, a little more happy to take on a challenge that I might not otherwise.
All right, John, what questions do we have on Twitch?
We have question number 1's from the Soccer for Good OG, and it had to do with our MLS breakdown.
Okay.
Is Portland the next club to have a chicken and rice incident?
Considering it happened in Portland, that's actually pretty interesting. It's very possible. If Toronto hasn't already had it.
I was going to say Toronto was mine.
If in Toronto this happened, would it be chicken and rice or would it be something else?
Ooh.
What would it be in Toronto?
I mean, it would be what?
It would have to be poutine, wouldn't it?
Have to.
That's more of a Montreal thing, but
Well, Swiss Chalet. It'd probably be the Swiss Chalet buffet there, or Pizza right there in the middle of the room.
it's pizza. That's what I always think of with Toronto and food.
All right.
Pizza in the press box. It's always solid.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it is what it is. Like it's pizza.
Sure.
You know, it's Little Caesars. It's okay.
Okay.
That's fine. But
Nothing wrong
I
with
always know there's going to be pizza there, and I know what it's going to be because it's always the same.
Yeah.
We didn't get any food in New England, so I would have taken
You
pizza.
got no food in New England?
There was no food brought to us, and we didn't have Ethernet either.
You know what?
But
what's
maybe
sad?
I'm a little bitter.
That makes me sad because when I was in New England in Foxborough for the lacrosse championship some years ago, I found their staff to be exceedingly helpful. So this is a bit like finding out a restaurant you used to love has fallen off.
Yeah, it was sad. The concession stand burger and fries actually pretty good.
Okay.
The fries were really good, and that's always the hardest thing at a concession
It
stand.
is.
Yes.
Usually
It
they're
is.
not good. They were
Yeah.
good.
You get the frozen chunks in the middle sometimes.
Yeah, no, these were crispy.
Because
They
that's
were
the
good.
thing is that if you get the cooking done correctly with the fries, and that's a delicate dance.
It is.
Especially, with the size of the fry, the thickness of the fry, how are
lot of
you going to
variables.
all these kinds of things, all these variables.
I love you trying to go detailed on a food preparation.
Well,
John.
because if this concession stands at Stadia are different. Sometimes you get the crinkle, sometimes you get the shoestring
Can
fry.
we get away from crinkle?
yeah, these were the in between.
Can we
Like
get
they were
away?
kind of thin fries, but not like the super thin cut.
Okay.
They were just good. They were really good fries. I was pleasantly surprised.
Solid fries are solid. That's
Yes.
good.
All right, what other questions do we have on the Twitch?
D. Graham about Orlando and Atlanta. He says Ojeda worries him more than Facundo Torres.
Well, Ojeda hasn't been starting, so yes and no. I think Ojeda's a really good player, coming off a great season at Godoy Cruz in Argentina, but he hasn't been a regular starter. Coming off the bench against tired legs, potentially, yeah, that can be dangerous. But Facundo Torres is one of the most talented players in the league. I think he's going to be a guy who gets over 100 caps for Uruguay. I think he's a perfect fit for Marcelo Bielsa's Uruguay national team. So Torres is the one who scares me. I thought Atlanta actually handled him pretty well last time out. After a couple of forays early, I thought they handled it and really kind of showed him into less dangerous areas. He's going to cut in. He's going to get into some dangerous spots. But what you've got to do, and you mentioned the kind of the channels, the pocket, you've got to keep him from getting there. And I think Luis Abram is going to be really key in that tonight. He's got to keep Torres, when he gets to that spot and wants to shoot or pass, he's got to get stood up to where he's either got to go back outside or come into the middle where it's even more crowded.
And when there's that initial cut, watch for the secondary runner, that
Yeah.
secondary runner who's going to come in probably at the top of the 18. That's going to be where if there's any sort of space in indecision and that secondary runner has an opportunity, you know where the ball's going to go. So it's going to not only make sure that on that first cut that secondary runner is picked up, but it's also going to be important to shut down any of that space where the secondary runner now says, okay, I can't go to the top of the 18. Now I need to go maybe a little bit further out to the side. So now I'm trying to make you become a superstar to beat us as opposed to I'm just going to let the space beat us.
I thought that's what Atlanta did against him maybe after the 25th, 30th minute down there. And I think in this kind of shape, they're going to be even better positioned to do it. So I like the matchup there. Ojeda off the bench can be dangerous, but if Torres is on one, he's just one of those players that can take over a game.
Right.
And he scares me a little bit more.
2 more questions.
All right.
Parzival, since it is Twitch,
Okay.
what game are you either currently playing or you enjoyed when you did play?
I was on a long run of playing the last FIFA game. I am excited about the new EAFC. And I'm excited to see it. I want to see what they add to it. I'd never gotten into Ultimate Team before. I was always more of like an old school like franchise or dynasty, depending on the game. That was how I wanted to do it. I'd always liked the general manager side of it. But I got into Ultimate Team last time on FIFA, and it was fun. So I'm excited to jump in from the beginning. I've been on a Madden 23 kick lately. Game Pass is great because you get like older games for free. So that one had been out for a long time. The new one's coming out soon. I was like, sure, I'll mess around with it. And it's kind of fun doing well with the Falcons because that doesn't always happen.
Okay.
Desmond Ritter's a superstar in Madden.
There we go. That's what I like hearing.
I like it.
Gears of War for me.
Okay.
I was a monster at Gears of War, and when I beat the game,
So you can actually beat the game.
I jumped up and down. The console fell over, and I got the red circle of death.
Oh,
which
no.
Any Xbox user knows, but it was a bittersweet moment.
You beat the game and you broke the Xbox.
Beat the game, broke the Xbox. So it was bittersweet, but you got to pay the cost to be the boss sometimes.
True.
I want NCAA football to come back.
Yes.
Because
I can't wait.
I would build my own customized version of the pistol offense.
I did change the Falcons offense to incorporate the pistol.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Running the pistol is a lot of fun with Desmond Ridder.
Now, was it fully loaded pistol or was it just normal
You have
pistol?
pistol variations.
Yeah. I do a
Lots of
two-quarterback
different
version.
ones. I've never done a 2-quarterback version of the
Yeah.
pistol. That kind of scares me.
Yeah, because with fully loaded pistol, you can have basically the two backs either even with the quarterback or ahead of the quarterback, almost like the Flying Ducks flying
Not
D.
many of the NFL playbooks go that route. Usually it's a lot of single back stuff.
Okay, so straight pistol. Okay,
yeah.
straight Nevada pistol.
Yeah, a little bit of that, but
See, if you run the two-quarterback set and then you have yourself one mobile, and you play against someone who likes to run cover 2, you can have a lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun picking them apart with the two-quarterback system with a little bit of custom playmaking. The halfback pass.
Oh, yeah.
Fullback pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. A lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, what else we got?
Last question comes from the Airborne DJ, and he wants to know what our guts think about Miles's future.
I think he's going to test free agency. I mean, he hasn't signed a contract yet, and if, his agent is doing his job, he would say, look, that the offer that you have isn't going to go away.
Yeah.
It's not a situation where sometimes you see a club will do that. They'll put an offer. Well, you only have 30 days.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't think that's the case here. Not with somebody who's been here since he started as a pro. So I think the offer is the offer. Can you increase it? Sure, but it's probably a pretty good offer. But if you're going to be able to be a free agent, and not just a MLS free agent, a worldwide free agent, you have to test it because he's at that age where he won't ever have this opportunity again. You have to test the waters. He still could come back if the offers don't materialize.
Correct.
But he has to go find out. And I think that's how it's going to play out. I don't know what offers like from England or from Germany. Germany seems like the no-brainer for me with his style of play in terms of a situation where you're talking transition soccer. Like, duh, you'd love to have somebody with his characteristics.
Sure.
But is an offer going to come that is better and also gives him a better quality of life than he has here? There's no way to predict that.
Do you want to be a global player or not? Do you want to be a player that is testing your skill level in Europe? Do you want to be a player that wants to make a lot of money, which you can do here? If the answer is yes, you want to be a player who tests himself in Europe, he's not going to be here next year. More than likely not. And that's a part of the growth and maturation of him as a player. Good for him. But if there's any team that has proven to you that they can produce defensive talent out of their academies with any level of regularity, it's this one.
Yep.
So I'm not particularly concerned. I wish Miles the best no matter what. But I think it's probably more likely that his agent's going to do the agent's job, and he's going to test those waters overseas.
You have to. You have to test it. And if there's a better opportunity, I don't think it's purely money, honestly. Like, I think obviously that's nice. I mean, if somebody comes in and is able to double the offer and give you that, and it's somewhere you want to be.
Right.
great. But I think that last part's key. I think Miles is happy in Atlanta, and it's going to take a lot to beat that.
Yeah.
Not just money, not just purely money, and honestly, not just purely playing in Europe either. I don't
Correct.
think that's a huge driver either. And with Greg Berhalter being in charge of the U.S. men's national team, like, he's not afraid to play MLS guys if they're the best guy to play.
Correct.
He's not Jurgen Klinsmann, for example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if Miles is the best
Charlatan.
center back to play, I don't think Greg cares where he is.
Correct.
Like, at his point, he kind of is what he is. Can he tweak? Can he be a little bit better? Sure. Can he, be sharper? Sure. But he's not going to be a dramatically different player. So if he's in good form, and that good form is playing in Atlanta, he'll play in the national team. I think that's maybe the biggest driver for him.
Right.
It's not money. It's not being in Europe to be in Europe.
Right.
It's where am I going to be comfortable? Where am I going to be happy? Where am I going to play my best soccer? I think that answer is going to be Atlanta. I hope it is. But I also think that the club is doing the right thing as well. They put an offer in front of him. They put it in front of him a long time ago. And it's, hey, we're not rushing you, man.
Yeah.
You're in a good spot in your career. If you want to go see what's out there, go see what's out there. We're here for you. Just let us know. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a situation that's going to happen more and more with guys playing contracts out rather than forcing those transfers, because then they get to pick where they want to go and they can really find out what the market is.
Right.
Yep.
And he should find out what the market is. But it might end up being best to stay here.
Broadcast plans for you.
So 7 o'clock, Five Stripes Countdown on 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app. Once the game starts, you can go to the home radio option on Apple TV's MLS Season Pass and listen to us. Sometimes it's like a minute after the game starts. If it's not there, like, check it again. It's usually coming in out of the break to the game.
Yes.
So it's usually in the 2-3 minutes right before the game starts. But if it's not there, at times the toggle switch gets stuck, come on. So they get it handled. We're also on Sirius XM FC. We're everywhere tonight. Channel 157. I think that's starting at 7 o'clock. Kickoff is going to be 7:55 tonight because the game is also on FS1. Not the 7:39. It's 7:55 tonight, and then full-time report afterwards. And we got the twos tomorrow as well.
That we do. It's 6:45 start, I believe, for the pregame.
Yep, correct.
And it is OCB. It is at Osceola Heritage Park. It's been a win and a draw so far for
That's
Atlanta.
the only spot Atlanta United 2's won a shootout in Kissimmee.
And it was tremendous. So we'll go over all of that. We caught up with players and coaches. We'll get you ready for that. 6:45 is your pregame. It's the traditionally very, very busy night in MLS Next Pro. We'll get all that table set for you. We'll talk about it at halftime as well. You'll have the call for the twos and OCB as well.
What's your match day schedule, Nick?
Hanging out, avoiding the storms.
Yes.
Trying to find a place where I can have a bit of food, maybe a beverage, and wait out until the wife and daughter arrive in Blue Lot.
We'll throw things at you from the radio booth.
There you go.
I love when you guys do that. When you guys are chucking little items down. At
And
me.
now that it's an open-air press box, we can all do it.
That's right.
You
Everybody
got to have some aim. We're like right behind it.
And we got to go all the way over to the left and sit there and kind of go this way.
Yeah, I don't think you have the arm strength to do that.
Or the aim.
Neither.
No.
You're not playing in the pistol.
No, I'm
All
not.
right, that'll do it for us. Next time we are here is
Nashville, right?
Nashville. August 26th. Am I remembering the schedule? I barely know where I'm at right now.
You and me
let
both,
alone-
brother.
I think it's August 26th. It's the late August Saturday game against Nashville. We will be here. Maybe Hani Mukhtar will. Maybe he won't. Maybe more Nottingham Forest players will be here for Nashville. We'll find out. But we'll be here at Reverb for that. And stay tuned. Maybe something for Cruz Azul. That game's been tweaked around a little bit. But that's coming up with Leagues Cup. SDH all week long, 9:05.
Correct, unless there's a time to have to catch up with a coach, and it goes to 9 o'clock.
Okay, so 9 or 9:05.
Most of the time,
on
we're
Twitch.
Turner time, yes.
And where you get your podcast. So thanks for hanging out with us. Mucho platiel.
Much plats, y'all.
Mucho.